You must be walking.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was. I'm Saeed Khan, and boy, it has really been not only a very, very busy week, it has been a very busy 12 hours. So let's go ahead and kick right into it. We are joined by former Fox 2 News anchor Huel Perkins, our troika of attorneys Bill Seikaly, Joel Sklar, and Steve Fishman. We have veteran journalist Nancy Derringer, and of course, co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel. Barb Engels, our labor and community activist, is actually out of town today at a music festival. So keep up the beat up there wherever you are, Barb, with the music. And I'm afraid I'm so disappointed that we're not going to be able to talk to you about our requiem of musicians who have passed away this week. But we've got Fishman for that because, well, at least two of them are from the age of vinyl. So, so he can go
vinyl instead of dinosaurs, Steve.
Well, breaking news, of course, was the overnight attack by Israel on Iran. It seems as though, along with nuclear sites, several military targets and personnel were also taken out. Including Iran's commander-in-chief of their military, Mohammad Bagheri, his deputy commander, Ghulam Ali Rashid, the commander-in-chief of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Hossein Salami, and Amr Ali Hajzadeh, who is the leader of the airspace unit in charge of drones and missiles of the IRGC. There have been a lot of very confusing messages, particularly out of Washington. Last night, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that we were not coordinating any of this. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee said, I knew about it in advance. And this morning, President Trump not only said that he knew in advance, but that the United States was allegedly not involved, but at the same time threatening Iran to say that if you do not come to the negotiation table, there is going to be more hard-hitting happening. So lots going on regarding this particular incident. Steve, you have your finger up on this one.
The most amazing thing to me is the ability to, this has happened, what now, 3 or 4 times? How many people do they have in there? And there got to be Iranians doing the same thing. That are letting them know. How do they know exactly where these people are? That they're able to target them, bam, and kill them? Like the guy that they killed when he was, where was he? In
Baghdad.
Somewhere. Yeah. I
mean, Soleimani. Yeah.
That to me is the most astounding thing of all of it. I mean, obviously they have the weaponry to do these things, but to have that kind of information and that, I know the Mossad, they're pretty good at this stuff, but there's got to be Iranians that are providing information. There has to be, it seems to me. I don't know. I'm not a military guy.
Well, the Iranian, I mean, interestingly, and sort of in an unprecedented way, the Israelis are actually talking about this, saying that for several years they've had Mossad inside Iran, that they have smuggled in not only weaponry and equipment, but certainly have the intel on the ground. Again, sort of uncommon for Israel to admit that in what's going on. Allan.
I mean, if you watch on Apple TV, you watch the show Tehran, I think there's some pretty realistic aspects to it. There's a lot, there's a whole anti-Khomeini regime there. There's a lot of people who hate him. And, look, there have been Israelis.
Khomeini died in '89.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But look, Israel, even Tehran has had some Israelis have been busted for spying for Iran. They've been getting paid. So it's not that unusual. We've had, they've had scientists, who are working on the nuclear capabilities there who have been assassinated. A lot of the scientists have drivers and bodyguards And apparently, probably a lot of them were killed in this latest raid. So it's not. I mean, the Israeli intelligence is. I mean, we've seen it in Lebanon, in Gaza. I mean, in Gaza, probably not the best intelligence there, but in Lebanon certainly, and Tehran as well. So,
well, I mean, in the case of the nuclear scientists, Alan, you're right. I mean, Faridun Abbasi was the head of Iran's Atomic Energy Commission, and then also Mohammad Mehdi, who was a physicist and a professor at a university in Tehran. So, I mean, those arguably would be civilian targets that are taken out, not just military. Bill.
Yeah, I'm surprised anybody else is surprised about this. Whenever you have a regime that is religiously based or totalitarian based, you're going to create enemies. And in those enemies, there's a great Arab expression, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And I think that that's what you see here. And I think that, Mossad is a fairly effective organization, but I don't think that you can just credit Mossad with this. You can give credit to Mossad when they run raids and do things like this. But these I think, are easy pickings. Unfortunately, what Israel, I think, is facing is that they are becoming a more totalitarian regime. And that as a result, I think people internally are going to do the same things that certain Iranians did. I think that this process actually weakens Israel and does not strengthen Israel. This regime is going to weaken Israel. They are considered amongst many people in the world a pariah state, and I think that it weakens them. It does not strengthen them.
Earlier this
either side.
Earlier this week, Israel plucked a humanitarian aid boat in the Mediterranean and international waters, dragged it back to Israeli port, was forcing its people on board to sign statements saying that they were detained legally. Some refused, including climate change activist Greta Thunberg. Currently, they're still detaining a member of the European Parliament from France. It doesn't seem as though there's any hue and cry from France. As Bill said, I mean, there seems to be this increase of a perception that Israel doesn't really care much about international law or the rule of law system. Do you think public opinion is going to then start to turn more chilly toward Israel, or is the narrative of Israel in the United States pretty well cemented?
Well, if you're speaking simply of Americans, I think, frankly, we don't care. Most of us do not care at all about what happens in the Middle East, except for Israel, where I think there are strong familiar ties and family ties and a long history of support. Now, what you will see, as long as no Americans die, I don't think you're going to see much of any kind of protest in this country. I'm just telling you what I see. This is America. This is who we are.
Huel, keep in mind, though, that we do care about the Middle East when it affects gas prices.
That's what I'm saying. In other words, if it affects us, we care.
Right. And the Dow is falling today pretty precipitously. They don't like war, and they don't like war in the Middle East because it affects gas prices. So,
but I think this is like the Sopranos show. We got the chief thug, Donald Trump, saying, "Look, you do what you need to do." Paulie did it. We didn't do it. Paulie did it.
Yeah, right.
But now, if you don't do as you're told, then it's going to get even worse. More of you could die. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what essentially the president was saying today. We had nothing to do with it, but frankly, if you don't give up your nuclear program now, there will be more damage ahead. So,
Alan, do you think that the thug in chief got out-thugged by Netanyahu here?
Definitely.
Yeah, I look, they're two thugs. There's no question about it. They work in tandem. I was going to say, though, Israel, I mean, look, Gaza has, Hamas has not achieved its ultimate goal, which is to get rid of Israel. But what it has achieved is that it's gotten a lot more people in the world to hate Israel and a lot more people to hate Jews. But that being said, Iran is a pariah state as well. And so there's not a lot of sympathy. And I think when I might disagree a bit with you, Bill, is that Israel attacking another pariah state may give Israel. I mean, a lot of people in the U.S. don't like Iran. You know, it's looked upon as part of the evil empire there, and it's certainly sort of taken over as Egypt is sort of the dominant force there in the Middle East. And so I think people like that Iran is being attacked, and that it's, the U.S. has always looked at Iran as a threat, and we've tried to negotiate over their nuclear capabilities. And so
we were in the middle of negotiations when the attack occurred. That's the whole Sopranos thing.
You killed the negotiator. You killed the negotiator.
Right, thank you.
And this is the president that actually ripped up the one deal that we did have that curbed Iran's nuclear capabilities.
Which is going to be the deal he's trying to get back to. I mean, this is an absurdity. This is Trump breaking things and saying, I'm fixing things. Only I can fix it because only I fucking broke it. It's really disturbing to see what's going on. But to take the lead negotiator, what kind of, I mean,
Joel's right. Joel's absolutely right. And look at it every place in the world. He was going to end the Ukraine war on day one.
Yep.
It's gotten worse. Everywhere he turns, he breaks things and does not know how to put them back together. And Allan, you may disagree with me on this, and I understand the logic of what you're saying. But I think that if you look at the rest of the world, they are now not seeing much difference between Israel and how it operates, and Iran on how it operates. And I will point out they are both religious states.
But
Allan,
go ahead.
All I'm asking you is this is not the labor state. This is not the state of Israel that was first created.
We grew up with.
Very different place. And I'm asking you to think about it, not from your position as a Jew, but to step back and to look at it and say, how does the rest of the world look at two dominant religious states oppressing other people who don't agree with their religions?
Go ahead, Steve, before I come.
There's a couple things. The first thing, and Bill, you and I have talked about this, it's important for people to remember, and keep in mind, I have an Israeli sister, that for the last 20 years, the only kind of Israel we've seen is a Bibi Israel, okay? And that is difficult for the older people to understand. When you see kids that are 31, 32, 25, all they've ever known is Bibi Netanyahu, and therefore you don't have a positive impression of the state of Israel. Second thing, when you call it a religious state, you're absolutely right. That's how it's progressing. But keep in mind, when Israel was founded, those were the least religious people on the planet. Ben Gurion and all those people who founded it.
I completely agree with you, Steve.
Wait, so what I'm saying is, you're right. I like the analysis, because I think with any state, and this is the direction we could be heading in this country if they keep allowing this kind of stuff, the more any state becomes a religious state, the less that state is going to be viewed in the rest of the world as a good country. And that's exactly what's going on with Israel. And it'll only get worse because, remember, as my brother-in-law said 45 years ago, they have regular non-religious have 2 kids, and the Orthodox have 8 kids or 12 kids or 10 kids. And the percentage of people who are now religious/Orthodox has increased like tenfold over the last 20 years. And that's what people need to understand.
Right.
Can I just offer one word just for clarification? And Nancy, given the fact that you're the grammarian, if you can give me the fatwa for it, can we call it a religio-national state? Because I don't see anything resembling piety in the form of Israel, Iran, or the United States. I think that perhaps is a more precise term.
Just to follow up on that, because I think it's a really good point, and to follow what Steve was saying, when I was going to Hebrew school, Israel was young. It was 25 years old when I was in Hebrew school, and we were told that this was a state that was pious, that was based on Judaic principles, that we were ethical, that decency, and we've shown that not to be so. For somebody like me, 66, who's gone through this, I'm very ashamed. I can't believe that Israel, a state of Jews, is waging a war like this. It is troubling to me. It is inconsistent with what I've learned. My father was a Judaica scholar, and this would break his heart. We have become oppressors as bad as the Nazis. I see starving children in Gaza. I see starving children in the Holocaust. I don't see the difference other than time has passed, and now it's a color photo as opposed to black and white. So, just to let you know what I think a lot of my peers are feeling. I know my brother. We talk about this a lot. This is just devastating. It has the myth of Israel has been destroyed. And it is very troubling for American Jews, certainly me, to try to reconcile this. I really can't.
Allan.
I want to respond to Brother Bill here. I'm not looking at it as a Jew here. I'm looking at it as I was saying, look, I was saying in the world opinion, because of the Gaza war, there are some that see Israel as a pariah state. What I'm saying is that now that they're taking on another pariah state, which Iran is perceived as, I think still the bottom line is, I think overall, and not in the Arab world per se, but there's a lot, in America, in the Western world, there's a lot of people who may have looked at Israel and Netanyahu. Netanyahu is an evil guy. Him and Trump, there's little distinction, but Iran is really the empire of evil as some people see it, and so I'm not saying Israel's not perceived as a pariah state, but I'm saying when one pariah state goes against another, there's sometimes one gets a little bit more favorable views, and I think a lot of people are rooting against Iran in this particular case.
But Allan, does the precision of the attacks make you feel, I would say, more sympathetic or less sympathetic? It would appear that Israel is specifically targeting individuals and nuclear sites, not going after the general population. They're not doing what they did in Gaza. Does that perhaps give you some reason to say, well, this is different? This is not quite the same thing.
Look, it's, there's a lot of arguments here. I mean, look, Trump fucked up. The Obama administration negotiated some type of deal that Trump just trashed. So why would Iran enter a deal with Trump at this point? I mean, there's no trust there. On the other hand, look, all the proxies have been going after Israel for years now. It's not just since October. I mean, you've got the Houthis, you've got Hezbollah, you've got Hamas, you've got ISIS in Iraq, or the Islamic Jihad in Iraq. So it's not, people can argue and say this is unprovoked that Israel is doing this, or some may argue and say they've been attacking Israel constantly. The Houthis have been attacking Israel. Hezbollah, from right after October 7th, the Houthis and Hezbollah started attacking Israel, and they're proxies of Iran. So I don't know. I'm not probably answering your question per se, but go ahead, Steve.
I'll answer his question per se. There's a huge difference, Huel. You're absolutely right. This was targeted stuff, targeting facilities and targeting people that were in a high up position in Iran. The Gaza thing is exactly, I agree with Joel 100%, and most of the people, at least that I know, feel the same way. That's a completely different situation. And to me, I have to believe that most of the world, whatever they think of Israel, and they can be the most anti-Semitic people on the planet even, when they look and see what happens to Iran, nobody is feeling sorry for Iran. The Egyptians aren't, the Saudis aren't, nobody feels it. So
let me, Huel, I think you hit the nail on the head. And by the way, I appreciate that. We will see, however, what happens. This is day one. And I'm not so sure that if there's any effort to respond, Israel's not going to blow this. I hope that they keep it targeted. I hope they keep it narrowed for the reasons that Huel talked about. I'm no fan of Iran, but this is, I'm struggling to figure out who the more evil people are here. I think Trump and Netanyahu and the Ayatollah all cut from the same bolt of cloth.
Yeah.
They may have different objectives. Their styles are the same. Their approach is the same, and they're all evil. So I'm not a fan of any of these people. Don't get me wrong. And Allan, listen, I appreciate your sense of discomfort, but the fact of the matter is Netanyahu is such an evil man. He is only concerned about staying in power, and the right wing has so overtaken control of the Israeli government.
I agree with that. Absolutely.
This is a completely different government. Can't be defended in my opinion.
Well, I think what's happening still in Gaza, which is just totally insane, like they killed Sinwar's brother, who is an evil guy, but there's still the mindset of, if he's in an apartment building and there's he's a high value target and there's 80 other people in the building, they're still willing to blow up the whole fucking building and kill another 80 people, including dozens of children. It's insane what's going on there, and that it's continuing.
And we're going to have to wait and see how they're going to handle these next steps. This is far from over.
It'll depend on the response, right? It'll depend upon the response. Who is
I don't know that it will, Joel. I don't know that it will depend on the response. I'm not sure that Netanyahu doesn't have a strategy for going in and taking out the structure in Iran that is there. It wouldn't be an unreasonable position to take in the abstract, right?
No, how do you do that? Bill? I mean,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. What do you take out every Shi'i cleric? Because in a theocratic system of this sort, there are seminaries full of clerics. I mean, this is, for example, if you wiped out the Vatican, you would still find a parish priest somewhere who then could step in to become the Pope and the head of the Holy See. So, I mean, this is really a futile way of looking at strategy that for some reason the U.S. and the Israelis have. I mean, Netanyahu yesterday, it was interesting that his speech was in English, not Hebrew. And it's interesting that he invoked so many tropes for an American audience. And I thought it was also interesting that his speech was exactly in American prime time at 9 p.m. His audience clearly wasn't for his own people in Israel. He was really telegraphing to another audience, which is essentially his Christian Zionist base here in the United States, to say, hey, can we get an amen?
I'm guessing, I haven't really looked enough into it, but I'm guessing when he's speaking to the rest of the world, it's more important to support, because the Israelis, I think the majority of Israelis probably support the idea of going after Iran. He doesn't have to. That's not a heavy lift for him, I think.
I think the optics, though, and you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong. Give the speech in Hebrew and then have an interpreter. At least make it look somewhat more authentic.
Well, they'll do two speeches, one in English and one in their native tongue.
There's that, like Justin Trudeau.
But look, again, I think going after Iran makes some sense, especially if negotiations failed. How do you do it? It's far more effective if you really want to deal with the regime. It is to create a coalition. And Allan, you're right. The Egyptians aren't big fans of Iran. There are ways to do this, but Netanyahu has never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity.
The question, though, Bill, is that is there not a coalition of the silent? Because Israel had to have breached airspace in order to reach Iran, or if not breach it, they must have had at least some kind of authorization to fly over Saudi Arabia or Syria or Iraq. Steve.
Fish.
The problem, Bill, you hit it on the head. They could easily have a coalition of the willing in the Middle East. The only problem is Bibi and his people will never, ever agree to the creation of a Palestinian state. And that's what keeps the Saudis or anybody else. They can't go and make partnerships. I mean, the Abraham Accords were kind of unusual itself. But they're not going to be able to say, okay, fine, we're going to make peace with Israel. We're going to be great with Israel. when they continue to do what they're doing, not just in Gaza, but in the West Bank. So that's what the ultimate problem. In the meantime, like you said, we've spent 25 minutes talking about this, and Huel's probably right. Nobody in America gives a shit anyway, other than the Jews.
Actually, I worry quite the opposite. I worry that Huel may be wrong. I think maybe we do give a shit, but it's the wrong way. I tell you, Trump has so changed, or this MAGA movement has so changed the nature of our country. You know, I was terrified when I saw his speech at what fort was he down at?
Bragg.
Yeah, Fort Bragg. The cheers that he got.
Yeah.
Well, you probably read, Bill, that those the soldiers who were chosen to sit in front in camera, you know, to be closest to the cameras, were chosen specifically because they were MAGA. Yeah, they were chosen for their attitudes and also for their size. Apparently, he didn't want any fat ones down there. So.
Is there a special MAGA medal at Fort Bragg, Nancy? Anyway, Allan.
I was going to say it's interesting, mind blowing that Huckabee, the remarks that he's made, saying we don't really support a Palestinian state, at least not in the current places that they can go anywhere. It's just mind blowing, and you know, particularly mind blowing, I think, is just if you come locally, the Hamtramck mayor who is up for an ambassadorship in Kuwait, where Trump has put a ban on Yemeni people coming into this country. He's also, you know, and then the whole Palestinian issue, the comments they've made, where in Hamtramck they changed Holbrook Street to Palestine Avenue in support of that. So, and we haven't heard a peep out of the Hamtramck mayor about this.
Nah, he's looking down the road.
Wait a minute. So Joseph Campos not from the Middle East? Man, this is what happens when you fall asleep.
Well, it would have been Yusuf Campo.
Yusuf,
all right.
Cambo. There's no P in Arabic, Bill. It's Yusuf Cambo. Yeah. Well, I guess the other place that you have to wonder if it's safe to go is California. The president went ahead and ordered the California National Guard to quell protests that were directed against ICE raids, which seem to be quite seemingly arbitrary and certainly physical and violent. There's been a back and forth in the courts. The district court actually said that he has no right to deploy them, but a 3-judge panel from the Ninth Circuit actually just has gone ahead and reinstated his ability to do so.
They stayed the order.
He stayed the order, sorry. I stand corrected. 2 Trump appointees and 1 Biden appointee. Bill.
Yeah, I want to give, first of all, credit where credit's due. I like reading original documents. I missed this. My son walked up to me and said, "Have you seen this executive order?" And handed it to me. It's terrifying. Guys, this was not a calling in of the California National Guard and the Marines to deal with a California problem. The executive order covers any place that ICE is in the United States where ICE is attempting to enforce the law. There are no boundaries to this calling up of the National Guard. It applies all over the country if you read the executive order. And I just got it, so I meant to send it around to everybody. This is the scariest executive order I have ever read because I think it's highly unconstitutional. But it authorizes the use of military force to protect ICE agents and to allow ICE to conduct its raids. It has no political boundaries.
Yeah, it's crazy. But you know what strikes me is this is what the Second Amendment was really for. This is where California
Yeah, exactly.
It's a well-regulated militia to protect itself from the overreach of the Fed. And that's really what the Second Amendment was about. It wasn't about people carrying AR-15s to go kill kids or kill whatever they want. This is exactly why we need, or why the framers believe you need a well-regulated militia. It's to protect you from the federal government. And there is no real state militia, I guess. But my God, now I see what the Second Amendment was all about.
You know, my husband and I took the CPL class couple months ago, and I have no intention of getting a CPL license, but it was a way to deal with my anger. And I've been telling conservatives ever since, well, you know, you've been for years now, you've been saying we need to arm ourselves against a tyrannical government. Well, now we have one. So I'm ready.
We have a video of Senator Padilla getting arrested.
Yeah.
Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your.
I also want to go
hands off.
How many of our ICE agents have been docked?
On the ground. Hands behind your back.
So this is California Senator Alex Padilla.
Those people, fuck them hard with a chainsaw.
This was during.
I'm sorry. I am so angry when I look at that. I'm not thinking straight anymore. So there you go.
And you know, given what you said about getting a CPL permit to kind of offset your anger, how's that going for you?
By the way, you should have been great on Let It Rip.
Since I left the station, there's no longer Let It Rip. It's now The Pulse. Much more aligned with the Fox point of view.
Yes, but Huel, I mean, Nancy's pulse ox is about 200 now. That was actually a press conference with Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. And what was really interesting is here you have a sitting California senator getting pulled out and then manhandled as he was. When she came out and she talked to a few other journalists, you should have seen her goon squad of security in a menacing way, sort of pushing back at the journalists that that's it, don't dare answer or ask any more questions. So, I mean, this is a full-out fascist move.
Absolutely.
Yes, I mean, let's keep in mind what she said at that press conference.
Yes.
She said, we are here to liberate the people of California from their Marxist, or the people of Los Angeles from their Marxist mayor and governor. The duly elected mayor and governor or the governor of California and mayor of Los Angeles. It's like, that's illegal. Okay, that is actually illegal.
By the way, the area that they're talking about regarding Los Angeles being a war zone is smaller than the area that was getting torched when the Tigers won the World Series in 1984.
4 blocks,
just
four square blocks, basically.
Yeah, Bill.
Yeah,
but Nancy, I thought you were going to finish that. She also said, "I wish that he would have identified himself and not charged at me." If that video shows anything at all, was he wasn't charging at anybody, and he did identify himself.
Right.
Yes.
They will lie, they will cheat, and they will steal.
Yes.
This is the most corrupt form of government that there is, and if people don't start standing up, we're not going to be able to distinguish ourselves from Nazi Germany or Red China or any place else.
Well, that's
going to normalize behavior like this. It's going to normalize behavior just like this. Brown shirts, Gestapo tactics. It's going to be all, and it's going to normalize it. Oh, they're dragging somebody else away. Okay.
We're waiting. We're going to wait. I'm going to wait for the schmucks to make my little speech on this. But if there is ever a group of people who are not reading the fucking room, or the mood of the country, shall I say, it's got to be the people in Washington right now, the Democrats in Washington right now. I mean, pardon me?
They're non-existent.
Yeah, they really are. They don't understand. And
reading the room, we have Trump at the Kennedy Center.
Drama at the Kennedy Center, and that's not because of the production on stage. President Trump was both booed and cheered as he sat down to watch the opening night of Les Miserables.
Before the show and during intermission, some other audience members clapped for the president. Others booed him and shouted "felon."
Okay, but in fairness, maybe it was just the MAGA audience yelling at Jean Valjean, "You're a felon!"
And you see the first sex worker had to make a contractually obligated appearance at her husband's side there. So,
wow. With that, Alan, why don't we cut to a commercial?
All right. I'm sorry. Hold on here.
That's not censored.
No.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Now, Nancy, you know that Melania was in the bullpen. It was supposed to be Musk, but because of the tiff, he just couldn't be there.
Called up from the bullpen, yeah. Right.
Well, I'm not sure that Washington is the only place in the country that seems to be not with it. The University of Michigan also seems to not really understand what free expression means. Just this week, they had to admit that they had hired undercover security firms, including AmeriShield and Detroit City Shield, to spy on pro-Palestinian students. The university just announced that they are cutting ties with those entities, but still doubled down and claimed that they did this for security. I'm not sure if such measures were even taken by the University of Michigan back when the Students for Democratic Society were operating in the 60s, but I guess we do live in different times. Is this something that is going to really damage brand Michigan? And I know some of you, as Huel had said about the Middle East, don't care about Michigan, but
no, they care about Michigan, but the Middle East. As Nancy pointed out, unless it affects the gas prices here, no, it's not a topic of conversation every day. But by the same token, though, I think that it is an important lesson for the University of Michigan. They know now what to do and what not to do.
Alan, what about you? You went to Michigan State where anything except speech is assaulted. So
I think
I'm a Sparty too. Let's be careful here.
Okay. Then I'm sorry. I stand corrected. Alan and Bill.
Yeah, I think the optics are horrible, but I think these universities have gone through so many scandals over the years and they survive. I mean, they take a hit, they're tarnished for a little bit of time. I mean, Dr. Anderson, at Michigan State, the other crazy doctor, these people, did horrible things.
Larry Nasser, you can say the Michigan State doctor, Alan. Larry Nasser.
Whatever, guy. But I think, the universities bounce back. Yeah, they get tarnished for a little bit. The football programs go through scandals. We've got the guy Weiss hacking in, to the computers and stuff like that. So I think universities are sort of, at some point, they heal all the time, and people are, it's like the Catholic Church. I mean, is the Catholic Church rebounded from the whole pedophilia thing? Maybe not fully, but But
Alan, they heal HEAL, but don't you think they need to heal HEEL a couple of times here? I mean, this is really sort of an overreach, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's a horrible. I mean, when it comes out like that, I mean, it's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Yeah. I mean, for what? At what end? I mean, if somebody's doing something,
it's my understanding that the university did not direct the private security officer or office to go into the private workings of the people they were surveilling. They simply watched closely. I didn't think that was a directive. Now, Steve, you're a University of Michigan graduate. What do you think about this?
He also
he'll just read his T-shirt. I think it says it all.
Everything hurts and I'm dying.
Describes all of us.
He's muted. Steve,
which I think is the extended version of the REM song.
Yeah. Unmute.
Unmute, Steve.
I'm muting him.
Alan, did you mute him?
I did.
Oh, I can't unmute you because you chose to mute yourself, Steve. So you have to go down to your little thing and click on the microphone.
You've audibly self-deported.
This is what happens when you get a guy with a flip phone on the show.
All right.
All right, we'll let him go. Can I just make one point here? I learned about this just a couple of days ago. I used to live in Indiana, as some of you know, and I know a lot of people there who went to Indiana University, which is not quite on the par with the University of Michigan, but it is considered an excellent school. And they have an LGBTQ alumni association, which has been very active in raising money for scholarships for LGBTQ students. They have, over the years, they have amassed an endowment of $1 million. They give away a healthy 5-figure sum every year. And apparently the administration of IU has told them that they will participate LGBT recipients of this scholarship money, even though it was given by donors with the intent of it going, because most of them were LGBT, the donors, to LGBT students. They're essentially what they're doing is they're obeying in advance. They're doing the thing that we all say we shouldn't do. The administration of the president is a woman named Pamela Whitten, and she is bending the knee before anybody even asks her to bend the knee. So, higher education is not full of fighters. We're learning, even at Michigan, even at the.
Bill.
Yeah, I will tell you, I happen to have a degree from Michigan State in undergrad, and I have a degree from IU in my master's program.
Oh, all right. What did you get your master's in?
Education.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
5 years before I became unhappy.
I did not know that. So, okay.
Anyhow, I will tell you that the Nasser scandal caused me to quit donating any money to the MSU alumni group, and this caused me to give up on IU. This is ridiculous. This is the taking of the knee at every level of our society to Trump. It was fundamentally changing us as a nation and fundamentally changing us as human beings. And we have to stand up to this every chance we get.
And I don't get it. Why is it happening? What are these people so afraid of? Is it? I mean, they have recourse to sue, to push back. I mean, this.
Nancy, look at this is. People have tried to compare this. This is just my perspective. I chatted with Steve about it the other day. This is far worse, in my opinion, than the McCarthy era, because McCarthy and a group of people in the House and Senate were going after these people. This is the president of the United States. The power that he wields is amazing. And when you take off the veneer of being controlled by 2 co-equal branches because you've completely compromised one branch and you're just ignoring the other, his power is outrageous. And I think Steve may have been the one to say this. I'm not sure. It might have been Steve, might have been Allan. In some private conversations we had, the consequences of protesting today are so much more severe. If you're a student and you protest, and listen, I was out there at all the demonstrations I could ever get to as a student, never worried about being thrown out of school, never worried about the kind of consequences that these kids face today.
Throwing those tear gas canisters back when you were Harry Bill. So
Bill, since there you go. There you go.
I'd be arrested if I looked like that today. I'd be arrested for a whole bunch of things before we ever got to it.
What a man! What a man!
Bill,
power to the people.
Bill. I mean, you expressed your displeasure by not donating anymore to the Alumni Association. Is this why your MSU football season tickets are now in Okemos?
I wish they were that close.
So, Steve, there's actually something else about college athletes here, and I mean, I know you were one at one time, a damn good one. Federal judge has now ruled in a way to pave the way for college athletes to be paid millions. Is this going to be good for college athletics?
They're
I
entitled.
think we still don't have Steve. Well, then, you know what? We actually have another thing that we can talk about where I can easily pivot.
Well, the first thing.
Go ahead, Steve.
He's got a bad connection.
I think there's a bad connection. Well, speaking of bending the knee, it looks like ABC News also did so by suspending reporter Terry Moran for criticism of Trump advisor Stephen Miller. He called him "quote unquote" a great hater.
That's accurate.
We've got video.
5 more words.
Terry Moran finally gets canned. Tyrus, you called it. After first suspending him, ABC News kicked Terry Moran's ass out the door after he tweeted that Trump and Stephen Miller are haters. You said that they should have fired him. Now they did. ABC is listening to Tyrus.
No, hold on with the car wash. I don't think ABC's listening to me. I think they were listening to the sound of the pen when they had to write that check to President Trump. They have to do this. This is the only way the propaganda media can ever get any credibility back.
Wait. Did that guy just refer to ABC as the propaganda media? Exactly. And his name is just Tyrus? What is he, a wrestler or something?
How about the fact he's on Fox?
There's that too. Yeah, right.
Look, he drank a long time ago, and this is now a source of income for him. You'll find people willing to accept money and fame for a chance to be on TV, for a chance to get close to the president, and to use that as a way to make even more money.
Yeah.
That's what's going on here. But Fox, we know, began as a propaganda network because the brilliant but evil Roger Ailes knew that if you simply give people what they wanted to hear, they would watch you and they would make you rich. And now that's where we are. But you find right-wing propaganda across the globe right now. You find right-wing leaders rising to power across the globe right now because people are afraid. I don't know what's going on, but it's happening everywhere.
Which means then that the plural for Tyrus is Tyra, and it's happening everywhere. So
and look, I think ABC was wrong to do what it did. It's sad. I think a simple apology from Terry would have been sufficient. But because the networks are now afraid of what Trump will do in terms of their profits.
Right.
They are all essentially bending the knee. Look, when George Stephanopoulos simply said that Trump was convicted of rape, that little slogan cost ABC $15 million.
Yeah, I know.
All he had to do was in the context.
As libel goes, there's a little bit of leeway in the media when you say something that's very, very similar to what the judge even said in the vernacular. Yes, it was rape, but he got convicted of sexual assault. Exactly. And then even if you look at what they paid, $50 million, what reputationally was he harmed? He is, hey, what does he have? Like 20 women accuse him of sexual assault. How could you give him $1 of damage?
Uh-huh. Well, yeah.
And those 34 conviction or counts.
I guess he couldn't really say it was rape because she couldn't actually say whether his tiny dick made it in there. But anyway.
But it doesn't matter. It's
I know. I realize.
He just touched
some leeway if it's.
I just never want to miss a shot to point out that the president does not have much going on down there. So anyway, not to take anything away from those other gentlemen who may be in the same boat. That's fine.
But the same thing happening at CBS. So
Bill and Joel, are we going to get in trouble with New York Times versus Sullivan on this one? I mean, was that New York Times malice or?
No, and I want to go back and I'm loath to do this because I like Huel so much.
I like that
screen. But I want to disagree with something that Huel said. Offering a simple apology. Has anybody pointed out the fact that what he said was true? I mean, does anybody know a greater?
Bill, look, there's a difference. As a quote journalist, there are things I can say here that I could not say on the air. There are things I can say here now that I'm a retired anchor that I could never say while I was at the desk.
Right.
Terry did cross the line.
Yeah.
You can say the same things by simply presenting examples and then justifying your conclusions. But to say it the way he said it was a problem. He was still being paid by ABC at the time. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with you.
We're playing it.
I understand.
It's an uneven playing field.
I would agree with you.
You have a certain role to play publicly and privately while you're still employed. That's all.
I agree with you all, but I admire Terry Moran for falling on the sword to tell the truth. He could do 20 reports on Stephen Miller and it'd have no impact. The fact that he did this brings some real attention to who Stephen Miller was. And look, ABC, like you said, I mean, he could have apologized. He could have been suspended for a week or whatever, but they were, now, ABC suddenly gets to talk to Trump more. He's made comments to them, I think, about the Iranian thing now. He's talking directly to them and he's seeing them as a friendly, media outlet, which none of the outlets should be friendly to him. Exactly. And the fact that Terry Moran had to cover that White House every day had to just fucking be maddening at some point. To cover it and not scream and say, these motherfuckers
are lying.
Yeah, and he finally got to that point where whether he was drinking or he's just up at night, and he said, I can't take it anymore. Fuck those guys.
But there's a way to say that somebody is hateful without saying
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? He said examples of what he's done and what he said, and let the public come to its conclusion. That's all I'm saying.
He just turned 65, so now he's got Medicare, so he can afford to leave. So.
One of the things that's happening is a lot of American journalists are migrating to international news agencies like TRT World out of Turkey, China Global Television, Al Jazeera in English. I mean, even yesterday I was on China Global last night talking about Israel and Iran, and Sean Caleb's was on there, formerly of CNN. And so I think you have this migration to sources which are seen as what old school journalism used to be in a lot of the mainstream national media outlets of this country. And it's widening the chasm between American media journalism and that from some of these other sources. And it's very profound. Well, now that we've got Steve back, and hopefully he'll be off mute, I want to talk about, as a requiem, the loss of some real cultural icons this week. This week we lost musician Sly Stone, of Sly and the Family Stone, Brian Wilson, of course, of the Beach Boys, Douglas McCarthy of the industrial band Night Sareb, and also Frederick Forsyth, the author of The Day of the Jackal. Any thoughts about any or all of these individuals? Yeah, Steve.
I do. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Now finally.
Hey, finally. Lengel finally did something right. It's about time.
Don't tell Lengel.
I think I sent you guys when we had the email about Sylvester Stewart, also known as Sly Stone.
Right.
I really believe, because he's right in that age group with me, Sly Stone had a way of identifying things, and just the fact that they had females in the band, that was a huge deal. Remember Cynthia blowing that horn? That was a big deal in those days. And I just think that his music, particularly the one that I sent you guys, coming from Somebody's Watching You, I mean, it was just so perfect. And then he winds up living in a old burned out bus or something like that. Everything goes to shit for him. Mm-hmm. Brian Wilson, the talent level, it's almost impossible to conceive of those harmonies that he did. And then he lived his last 25 years maybe, where he had all kinds of mental problems. He wound up having to have a conservator, I think. Isn't that right? Yeah, Joel's nodding.
It is.
It just was really something when you get to be my age and you see one after the next of all the people you grew up listening to. Right. One drops. Now all you got left is Smokey Robinson, who they're accusing of being a rapist at age 85. Everybody's gone. And for me, I can tell you, I pulled out all my slides, not tapes, whatever it is we listen to these days.
8 tracks.
Yeah, I still have the 8 tracks. I just
leave it 6.
And Nancy, thank you for showing us the cover of Pet Sounds there.
Well, I think I want to say, I mean, I don't want to take anything away from his talent, but we are living in a very slobby time. I don't want slovenly time. I mean, people leave the house in their fucking pajamas all the time. This guy never failed to look great, even except maybe when he was on crack. But I mean, he really knew how to dress and to dress like an entertainer. And so I just want to give him some propers on that.
Well, the one thing he did say, and somebody's watching you, was the higher the price, the nicer the nice. This is what you pay for what you need. The nicer the nice, the higher the price. Jealous people love to see you bleed. I mean, his lyrics were fantastic.
They were.
I love the guy.
And that's why Jerry Springer used to pay by check. Alan.
I had lunch with a group of former Detroit news reporters on Wednesday on Woodward and Duggins or Dugans, and I was sitting next to Susan Whitehall, the former music writer for the Detroit News, and the news flash came on my phone right while I was sitting next to her about Brian Wilson, and she tells a story where she was at I think it was a hotel or something, or a bunch of people there, and Brian Wilson says, let's go up to the top to the bar, and he was already being watched. He had all these coaches watching him, and he was, make sure he didn't consume alcohol. So she was like, oh my God, this is going to be horrible. He went up to the bar, told the bartender, line me up 3 Coca-Colas. And he drank 3 Coca-Colas because I guess he wasn't supposed to have stimulants of sorts. So it's an amusing little story.
But that's quite a bit of caffeine, and that must have been quite the belch.
And it probably came out in harmony. So there.
Yes.
Huel, I know you're a music aficionado. I mean, I've actually seen you at shows.
You have an afro as big as Bill's.
I want to see a picture, damn it. If I've got to put
next week, I'll send you one.
Well, in lieu of that, Bill, we can just show yours again. There you go.
Not me, it's Huel.
That's actually similar strokes for different folks, Bill.
That's right. There you go.
All right, let's go to our last segment then.
All righty. Sorry.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the Week.
All right, Steve, why don't we start with you then?
My schmuck, it's a tie between Pete Hegseth and Kristi Noem. And I really can't even identify any one specific thing. It's just a complete assholery of the both of them. Day after day, week after week, comment after comment. So I just picking the two of them because there's not.
He cut out again.
Well, we got the who, and we got most of the why.
He's in the bunker. Please come back. Are you? Go ahead, Steve.
What? No, I'm done. Kristi Noem, Pete Hegseth.
Okay.
Good ones.
Succinct. Nancy.
I've got 2 as well. Our senators, Alyssa Slotkin, and close friend of Bill Seikaly, Gary Peters. Both of them, their reaction to Alex. This is what I mean about not reading the room. I watched the strong arming of Alex Padilla in California yesterday, and I'm tired of people saying, have we reached a constitutional crisis yet? We are there. We crossed the Rubicon a while back. And when that kind of thing happens, when they're charging mayors in New Jersey and everything else, we are in that crisis. And both of them basically came out and said, they stood in front of a phone camera for a minute and they said, this is unacceptable. But if I had to rank them 1 and 2, I would put Slotkin at the top for most schmuckitude because her reaction was, Kristi Noem, act like an adult. And I thought, what? I mean, what? Act like an adult? That is your reaction to this? Right. I mean, it blows my mind. Like I said, it was really.
Be best, Nancy. Be
best. Exactly. That's good. And now she's going on my sign tomorrow when I go down to Clark Park for the demonstration. So anybody else going? I'll see you there, Bill.
I'm actually going to be at Clark Park or in Ferndale.
I'm going to Clark Park. So yeah, you'll see me there.
Maybe we can get a picture of Bill from the old days and make masks out of them, and it can be B for Vendetta.
I have to tell you this very, very funny story very quickly. My son came to me and he had a long-standing engagement with his mother to go to a Tiger baseball game and said, I'm not going to be able to be there. Are you going? And I said, of course I'm going. And he had this list of things he wanted me to remember at the demonstration in case they turned violent. And it was all I could do. I started laughing and said, son, I've been to more violent demonstrations.
You were the one who threw the tear gas can.
He knows the story, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. So there.
Yeah, but why did you throw it straight up in the air, Bill?
Well, I didn't. You ever been near a tear gas canister? You ever been near a tear gas canister? I just wanted. A woman fell. A professor who was with me and I stopped to pick her up, and the tear gas canister came right there. I just wanted it away from me. I mean, it was an afterthought to say I just wanted to return it to the state police because they might have wanted their equipment back. But it was terrible. It was the most vile thing I've ever been near.
I think you do get 10 cents for every one you return to the police, Bill. It is Michigan.
Who do I call? Do I call the state police or the?
No. You just put it in that machine at the grocery store and you'll get your 10 cents. Huel.
First of all, shout out to Slash Stallone and Slash Stone and Brian Wilson, two of the greatest musicians ever. You know that you're a great musician when Paul McCartney, the greatest songwriter in the world, says that your melodies were the most wonderful thing he's ever heard. Brian Wilson's song, God Only Knows, and Wouldn't It Be Nice? My God, such wonderful, wonderful, wonderful memories. Okay, the schmuck of the week, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. dismissing the entire vaccine protocol committee. What an idiot. After he vowed he wouldn't do it, but he did it anyway. And it makes me mad, not only at him, but also the Republicans who voted to confirm him, especially the Louisiana Senator, Mr. Cassidy.
Exactly.
The doctor who voted for him anyway. Done.
We have a video.
We got video.
Let's start with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Secretary of Health and the only member of Trump's cabinet to be reheated in an air fryer. Earlier this week, Kennedy abruptly fired all 17 members of the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee, which understandably caused a lot of concern among people who prefer not to die from an old-timey Oregon Trail disease.
Oh, man. You know, Huel, there was a story about, I think in 1974 at the Grammys, where John Lennon was sitting with Alice Cooper. And apparently Brian Wilson was sitting a few tables away and he kept staring at the table. And then I guess Brian Wilson stands up, comes over to Alice Cooper and says, "Could you introduce me to John Lennon?" And Alice obliges. And John Lennon says, "It's so wonderful to meet you. You know, you've been such an inspiration to us. And certainly you really inspired Paul, particularly when it came to the Sgt. Pepper album." And Alice then, I guess, turned to John and said, "Is that really the first time you've met Brian Wilson?" He says, "No, we've met hundreds of times, but Brian just isn't really well right now."
Wow.
But just the kind of grace by which John, acted as though this was, the first time, I think was really kind of a
favorite Beatle.
Yeah. Always
God only knows what we would have been without their music.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well played. Yes. Okay, Joel.
I'm going to go with a gentleman by the name of Vincent Scardina, who was a Trump voter in Florida who had a roofing company. Who employed many people, immigrants. And ICE, of course, came in, took his workers away. The workers have been there for 20 years. They were like family. They had no criminal records. They had their papers. They were legally here. And now he is regretting that they took these people away. He didn't expect it. And it's like, you're an asshole and a schmuck. I mean, Trump told you what he was going to do. He let you know, that it's all too late.
Joel, you're leaving out the best part, which is when the reporter asked him, "Are you having some buyer's remorse now over voting for Trump?" And he goes, "Maybe a little."
They rip your family away as the way, he was weeping when he was giving his thing.
They took half of his roofers, and
it just makes me, cognitive dissonance is real, and people cannot, once they're committed to this position, they just can't find it intellectually or any other way to move. It's really frightening. I mean, if they're going to rip away people that you love, and you're saying, well, that is a terrifying thought.
Who would have thought that Joey and Dee Dee and the boys, when they sang "The KKK Took My Baby Away," would have that happen in 50 years? I mean,
Can we play? I know we're running behind, but
no, go ahead.
The conservative Washington Examiner, a conservative paper, has this quote out of a private meeting where Stephen Miller is screaming at agents, "What do you mean you're going after criminals? Why aren't you at Home Depot? Why aren't you at 7-Eleven?"
We are seeing, for example, in farming or hospitality. Just listen to this bleeding heart liberal from earlier today.
We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have, maybe not. And you know what's going to happen and what is happening? They get rid of some of the people because, you know, you go into a farm and you look and people don't, they've been there for 20, 25 years and they've worked great and the owner of the farm loves them and everything else. And then you're supposed to throw them out. We can't do that to our farmers and leisure too, hotels. We're going to have to use a lot of common sense on that.
Yeah. Wait, what? That's our argument.
Yeah, it's like the hotels are going to have to pay $1 million to buy some Trump coin and sit down with the boss and talk to him about how much they need their workers.
Everything is transactional. Exactly.
Yes, precisely.
We're gonna lose the mints on the pillows. I mean, where do we go from there? Bill.
Yeah, I've got 3, and Steve stepped on 2 of them. But I'm going to give a Trioca Award to Pete Hegseth, Kristi Noem, and Donald Trump for very different reasons. One, Noem coming out and lying about what happened to the Senator Padilla from California when she was right there. I mean, you cannot say that, she must not have understood. She was right there. It was going on like it didn't matter. 2, Hegseth last night or yesterday, maybe it's the day before, announced that we have that the Pentagon has contingency plans to invade Greenland. What the hell? I mean, can you imagine what this would do under NATO? Article 6 is going to be called up for them to attack the United States in defense of Denmark. This is amazing to me. That it happened is amazing to me, but that he would come out and say it is really offensive. And 3rd, Donald Trump, God bless your evil heart. This birthday parade that you're throwing tomorrow, when you're talking about cutting the budget and you look at how much this cost and what you're going to do to the infrastructure in Washington, D.C., you are the most evil man that I have ever known this in my lifetime. This is amazing. People have been offended when I've compared you to Hitler. Hitler should be offended when I compare it to Hitler.
This is crazy. Yep.
Wow. You hate him more than the guy who photographed you, Bill. That's wow.
He was a poor student. That happened to be my ID taken in 1973, I think it was.
You got to lay off of Bill. He's like
I had a haircut and a beard trim the day before that picture was taken.
There you go.
Look, Bill, you know I love you and I love your meal card photo as well. So, all right, Allan.
I'm going to go with Marjorie Taylor Greene for advocating that there should be charges filed against the Senator Padilla for doing that and that resisting arrest. I mean, I felt the same visceral feelings that Nancy had when I saw that. I got so angry to see them take a U.S. senator and then not only push him out of the room, which was horrible in itself, but then throw him down basically get him down on the ground and handcuff him.
But he didn't commit a crime. I mean, there was no probable cause for any of this. He didn't commit a crime.
Have you guys ever been manhandled by cops like this?
No.
I mean, what he experienced,
just boyfriends. Sorry, that was too
Where are we going? Cue the Sly Stone music.
What he experienced was exactly what many people. You're down on your knees. They're saying, put your hands behind your back. He is trying to comply while they're shoving his head down into the ground. And there's a great video of a guy who's going through this, who is clearly okay.
Go ahead.
Don't encourage her.
There's a great video floating around the internet about a MAGA guy who is getting arrested someplace and going through this process because it's confusing. You're trying to listen. You don't want to be beaten up.
Right.
I've been in this situation. And what happens? This guy starts yelling at the cops, "You're treating me like a black man." I mean, it's an amazing video of how people end up feeling in that situation and how racist they are. It'd be okay if I was black and you were doing this to me, but for God's sakes, I voted for Trump.
Exactly.
That's what they do.
Well, I mean, not only was it so offensive, but I think it kind of also blew Nancy's fantasy of that happening to Lindsey Graham. All right. Well, I've got a couple of schmucks. One is our own Congressman John James for showing what are the consequences of having your, let's say, your nose too far up the kazoo of the President of the United States. At a bill signing ceremony with James standing back there smiling, the president actually says, "John James, well, I don't know. I don't know if I'm happy with him running for governor and abandoning the Michigan 10 seat, saying I don't really have any confidence in him running for governor and pretty much giving him a negative endorsement in the process, while James just kept the grin on his face. So John James,
he's a natural born ass kisser, that guy, man. It's like the emptiest suit that ever did empty.
Actually, I don't think it was a kisser. I don't think it was a kisser here. I think it was an infiltrator.
Okay.
He was a little bit too far up there. And the other one is actually mayoral candidate for New York City, Andrew Cuomo, for allowing his super PAC to go after also candidate Zoran Mamdani by making Mamdani's beard more swarthy to look more menacing and really leaning into the Islamophobic trope, suggesting that he's a dangerous Muslim. But also, just as egregiously, Cuomo accusing Mamdani of being a Nepo baby. This, of course, being the scion of Mario Cuomo. Zoran Mamdani's parents, by the way, are Mahmoud Mamdani, noted professor of anthropology at Columbia University, and Mira Nair, the film director who brought us such movies as Mississippi Masala.
That's his mother?
She's Hindu, he's Muslim, and it is a very ecumenical family. Not exactly the kind of direct vertical nepotism that you see with the career politician family of Cuomo. Mamdani was down by double-digit points, and now in some polls he's actually moved ahead of Cuomo. In, I guess they have like a ranking system.
Rank choice.
In rank choice in the primaries, but he has really come on strong for the primaries, which I think are scheduled on the 24th of this month.
Did you hear the I'd like to report a murder comment that he made to Cuomo last night during the debate? It was great. I can't recite it from memory, but if you look it up, it was great. He said he basically like laid Cuomo out like a slaughtered deer.
Well, he mentioned how he's never had that many sexual harassment charges against him. I mean, he played the biggest game of I never I've seen.
Yeah, exactly. That's the comment I'm thinking of.
And I'm sure that most of the audience was probably still drinking every time and taking a shot every time he said I never. So anyways, thank you again for a wonderful roundup of the week. It has certainly been a very busy one, and I'm sure the days ahead will be as well. I hope calmer voices and minds and hearts prevail. Amen. Thank you, Nancy Derringer. Thank you, Huel Perkins. Thank you, Joel Sklar. Thank you, Bill Seikaly. Thank you, Steve Fishman in absentia. And with thanks and the final word, always, Allan Lengel.
Drive home safely.